Mental health was a
Great to talk to you,
professional,
Alistair.
political interest, but also a profound personal experience for you. Do you mind sharing your family experiences with us?
No, not at all, Alistair. And actually, that's one of the messages that we've got to get out there, that we need to open up about this, and there's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about. So our oldest son, Archie, when he was a teenager, was diagnosed with something called obsessive compulsive disorder. A lot of people sort of trivialise it, talking about feeling a bit OCD when you're, putting things in order or checking things and so on. But in its real form, it's quite a punishing condition. You get a dark thought in your brain that you can't dislodge, and it might be something really cruel, like, I could kill my mother with this knife that I'm holding in my hand. And of course, the thought is totally irrational, but it's there and it's real. And I think for someone growing up, it's really difficult. I remember the moment when Archie said to me, "Dad, why am I the only person who's going mad?" As a sort of 17-year-old. And you just think, what is a 17-year-old going through when he comes out with something like that? And
yeah. But let me butt in. Archie hit the nail absolutely on the head, because, in a sense, some people observing OCD from afar will just think that weird, keep shutting doors and opening and shutting doors so many times and making sure that the knives and forks and spoons are all perfectly in the right order. They are symptoms, of course they are, but there's the ultimate extreme of it if it isn't recognised by professionals and dealt with.
Yes, absolutely. And the slightly tricky thing is that, he was a good-looking lad. He was a very good football player. He was on the Norwich City Academy. So to all intents and purposes, anyone from the outside would think, what's he going on about? Everything's going for him. But inside there was turmoil and really tough. The positive news, incidentally, Alistair, and this is also an important message, is that he's now 33, got married last year, delayed marriage through COVID. They've now got a child, a lovely little baby girl, and he's thriving. He's in the music industry, earning more money than I will ever earn. So there's a positive outcome there. And I suppose it's an important message to get across, because many people feel that mental health is inevitably a life sentence, but it doesn't have to be. There is always the hope of getting to a better place. And I think I loved your introduction, incidentally. I thought you put it really nicely, and I very much agreed with what Gemma said. We all have a role to play here in supporting one another. Probably everybody who's watching your programme today, their families in some way or other have been touched by mental ill health. And it may be that there's someone in that family who isn't opening up about it because they're a bit worried about doing so. So the more we get rid of this old-fashioned idea that, just pull yourself together, the better, because we enable people to open up and talk about it and ultimately to get help.
My daughter, who, as you know, is a teacher, phoned me just before I came on air and said, "Did you see what Nadeem Zahawi said at the education conference yesterday?" And I said, yeah, I take your point, absolutely important. The quote that she was referring to was when Nadeem said, and I quote, "I want us as a government to put well-being at the centre of everything that we do in schools, alongside a drive for rigorous standards and high performance. But of course, we can't do this if the children are not at school." The well-being of young folk who, as a proportion of their lives, have had much more disruption over the last 18 months than oldies like you and me, to hear a new education secretary identify that and underline it is either bandwagon jumping or significant. What do you make of it?
Well, look, I'm encouraged to hear Nadeem Zahawi say that, and it marks, I think, quite a shift from his predecessor, who was very much focused on sort of behaviour control. The way I see it is that if we understand and recognise the importance of well-being, of happiness, we actually all want to be happy, don't we? Isn't that the most important purpose in life? Happy and contented. If we enable children as much as we're able to be happy and to enjoy good well-being, it facilitates learning. So there's no either or here. We create the conditions where children can learn and prosper academically and come out with good educational qualifications.
How important as well, and I was delighted to hear more detail about the happy turn in Archie's life, but how important is it that folk who have faced these issues, and Alastair Campbell, a man we both know very well, who has had his issues with depression and the rest of it, is a very prominent public voice. Whatever you think about him politically, forget about it. On this issue, it matters and he's good at it. How important is it that folk like he, and Archie perhaps, find the courage to come out and say, look, it isn't just a question of pull yourself together. I'm a been there, done it person.
Well, you're absolutely right, Alastair. And, Alastair Campbell was an adversary of mine, but we came together on mental health because we had a common cause. And there's been a campaign over a number of years now. It's come to an end now, the funding for it, but it's called Time to Change. And it really encourages people to open up and to speak about their own mental health experiences. And what happened was that, a whole load of business people, sports, men and women, people in the music industry, people in politics, all started to come out and talk about their own experiences. And they discovered that the world didn't cave in when they did that. And I always think that every time someone in the public eye speaks out about their own mental health, it makes it just a little bit easier for another teenager to open up and not to feel afraid to do so. So I think it's a really important process we're going through. And I think society is changing, and we're becoming more understanding of this situation and recognizing that it is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. It's an illness like any other illness. And the best way to deal with that is to open up about it and get help.
Thank you for doing so eloquently and passionately, Norman. Great to talk to you, and love to the family.
Well, always good to talk to you, Alastair, and thank you for focusing on this on your programme.